Thank you for joining us on Business Incorporated. I'm Chimeze Obiwagwa, and on the show today, Nigeria's capital importation falls by 12.5% in the first quarter of this year to $5.5 billion. South Africa's consumer inflation rises to highest in 10 months in July. Plus, IMF to begin talks with Angola on financial support. We'll begin here in Nigeria as the country records a total of $5.5 billion in capital importation within the second quarter of 2018. The figure, which is the latest from the National Bureau of Statistics, represents a 12.5% decline when compared to the preceding quarter. The fall is attributed to the contraction in portfolio and other investments by 9.76% and 24% apiece. Portfolio investment, however, remains the largest source of capital importation by 74%, while other investments accounted for 20.5%. On the other hand, foreign direct investment contributed 4.7%, with the United Kingdom as the overall biggest importer by origin. And South Africa's headline consumer inflation rose to its highest in 10 months in July as the cost of transport and household goods increased. But some analysts say the central bank was unlikely to raise interest rates. The Reserve Bank held its benchmark rate for a fifth meeting in a row in July, but warned it was ready to tighten policy despite the weak economy in response to rising rand-driven inflationary pressures and offshore volatility. Headline consumer inflation quickened to 5.1% year-on-year in July from 4.6% in June, and rose to 0.8% from 0.4% on a monthly basis. The figure was a touch above expectations of 5% annual increase, pushing the rand to 14.44 from 14.39. But analysts say investors and the central bank will be more concerned with core inflation than the headline figure. Core inflation, which excludes the prices of food, non-alcoholic beverages, petrol, and energy, rose to 4.3% year-on-year, from 4.2%, while on a month-on-month basis, it increased to 0.6% from 0.2% previously. And to the markets now here in Africa, the South African JSE index was looking upbeat at intraday, disregarding the disappointing inflation numbers. The JSE index was up 1.40%, while other markets remain closed for the Muslim holiday. In the meantime, markets in the Middle East remain closed, observing the Muslim holiday. The markets which traded last on Friday saw the Dubai market lead gains with 0.44%. Abu Dhabi was down 0.45%. Qatar closed in the red, 1.50%, leading losses. Saudi gained to marginally 0.02%. And in Europe, stocks were slightly lower in morning trade as investors continued to monitor trade talks between the world's two largest economies. Also, market participants are assessing the potential impact of a guilty plea from Trump's former personal lawyer, Michael Cohen, and the conviction of former Trump campaign chairman Paul Manafort. Now let's bring in Daniel to talk to us. Good afternoon, Daniel.
Hi, Jimmy. Good to see you. Hello from Frankfurt.
Thank you. Now, the U.S. dollar has taken a bit of knock on the news that President Trump's former fixer, Michael Cohen, has pleaded guilty on 8 of 18 charges. Tell us more about the wider market reactions today.
Well, I do have to tell you, Jimmy, that the market at the moment, at least, is not really, let's say, influenced by what happened yesterday in the courthouses in the United States. This is mostly happening because U.S. President Donald Trump, investors here don't really believe that even though he might be in bigger trouble than he already is because of all those personal issues, because of money that was maybe even paid, by this lawyer to prostitutes. But investors still don't think that all of this is really going to have a big impact. They don't believe that, for example, an impeachment scenario would happen. What is actually more interesting, and that brings me to another topic, that the U.S. President Donald Trump was at a campaign rally yesterday. He was in Charleston, and he was talking again about car tariffs between the United States and also here in Europe. We have to remember that those car tariffs for the moment are actually off the table, but just for the moment. But yesterday he was again using very, very strong rhetoric, saying that car tariffs up to 25% could happen. On the other hand, I guess you can see it also here in the background. The blue chip index DAX has been struggling a little bit lately. This is happening because Continental, the big tire maker here, listed in the blue chip index DAX, has been issuing a warning that they would not reach the profit that they were actually hoping for. As a result, shares of the company were really heading south. Right now, close to 13%. The group is saying that their annual profits would be slashed by falling sales and also higher costs. Continental has announced that they will most likely generate 1 billion euros less this year than they forecasted. When this ad hoc message, that's how it's being called, reached investors here on the trading floor, it really caught them by surprise. Because of this, in general, shares of car makers are not having an easy day here at the moment. Shares of Daimler, BMW, Volkswagen, they're all in the red with losses between 0.5% and 2.5% at the moment.
Well, Daniel, you talked about car tariff. Now, the China-U.S. trade talks is expected to wrap up today, with U.S.-Mexico NAFTA pact also on the table. Are these talks de-risking the jitters at the emerging markets?
Well, let me tell you, in general, this trade issue, this trade war issue, this is one of the biggest topics here, probably the biggest topic here that is overshadowing pretty much every trading day. Whenever there is a news about possible new tariffs, about a possible escalation in this trade conflict, usually we see as an immediate result the shares here falling. Now, when you talk about the situation with China in this Reuters interview that Donald Trump was giving this week, he has been very frank and saying that he does not believe that there is going to be an agreement between China and the United States. Though, of course, we know that the president can rapidly change his mind from one day to the other. So investors here, also here in Frankfurt, will be having a very close look what, will those trade talks, bring, if there are going to be maybe concessions made by the Chinese or made by the United States. We remember, for example, that in this trade conflict with Europe, the United States was actually asking now Europe, and saying, if you buy more from our agricultural products, such as soybeans or also like fluid gas, we would be able, to negotiate those tariffs again. So yeah, it's going to be quite interesting if, maybe other topics or other things will be asked in return from the United States to China.
Okay, Daniel, VW is in the news again today. This time, farmers in Mexico are saying that the German automaker is responsible for causing a drought. What are the facts as you know it now?
Yeah, exactly. It's one of the most bizarre stories, I have to admit, that I have been talking about lately. What is happening? Volkswagen has a production facility planned in the Mexican state of Puebla. Every year, thousands of cars are produced there. So now farmers are accusing Volkswagen of causing this drought period to protect newly manufactured cars from hailstones. So they are saying that the car makers has been using hail cannons, so sonic devices that disrupt the formation of hail in the atmosphere, so those basically those clouds would not be generated in order to save the cars from possible damage. So now the farmers are saying that they have big financial losses because of this situation. They're saying also that this technique has starved the land of rain and made them lose 2,000 hectares of crops, and now they want a compensation and are asking for $4 million in return. Let's see how Volkswagen is going to react.
I actually look forward to know what VW will do about this. Anyway, thank you very much for your time, Daniel.